Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind. Each week we connect with people across the country to share ideas, inspiration, and simple ways you can enjoy life right in your own neighborhood. I'm Kayla, and on this week's show we've got this.
You know where those chickens were raised, what went into them. You're taking care of them yourself, and so it's a great hobby for yourself or for your family, for kids to learn responsibility.
The payments that are at the higher end are going to be people who are exposed quite a lot, most often through occupational, agricultural, landscaping kind of activities.
An SAT score can unlock scholarship dollars for students, which for a lot of families, makes all the difference in being able to go or not.
All that and plenty more. So sit back, relax, and let's rise and unwind.
Kelsey Hart has been making serious moves in country music, earning millions of streams, touring across the country, and writing songs for some of the biggest names in his genre. With his new single, Something That You'd Miss, it shows a little more personal, reflective side and is the follow-up to his high-energy hit Fireworks. We're catching up with him today ahead of the release. Welcome to the show, Kelsey. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, Something That You'd Miss. It tells a vivid story. What's the backstory to this song?
Yeah, so it's a song I was a part of writing last year that one of my buddies, we were on a songwriting retreat, and he just started telling a story, kind of about a situation that he had been in that was similar to this, where wasn't anything, that really happened, bad in the relationship. The girl just, she had moved a long way from her hometown to be with him, and just decided, it just wasn't for her, so that's where the story stemmed from. And, he just said, I guess if I was more like her hometown, then I'd be something she'd miss too, and so that's where the song started. And you hope that's something you never have to go through, but that's the reality for some folks. So,
in your debut, Life With You, it really connected with some fans. How does fan feedback tend to influence the direction you take with new music?
Yeah, no, Life With You was certainly it's really cool getting to hear all the stories on that. And I think anytime we step into a room, you're hoping to write something that people can hang on to and kind of put to their life. And we're not just telling our own stories. We're trying to, every time we're writing songs, we're trying to help tell other people's stories. So that's the goal every time.
And I always like to ask musicians and artists about their influences. And it's not the same way about like, hey, who are your favorite influences? Outside of the music genre, what type of other art or artists, could be actors, writers, authors, filmmakers, what other artists out there kind of inspire you and your work when you go in to write music?
Oh man, as far outside of the music business, I mean, if I'm the first person that came to mind, it was Will Ferrell. And I just think of, a guy like him, is, a comedian, the funny guy, like not taking life so serious all the time. I think that's just a good approach to have, so I think the lightheartedness of a guy like him, is crucial.
And you've written for other artists as well. What is different about creating music for yourself versus writing for somebody else?
We're always, kind of trying to write in the direction of what I'm doing because I don't have a ton of time to write anymore. But it also just, at the end of the day, we can't record every single song that we're part of writing. So we'll just kind of break them down and see what we think, could possibly work well for another artist. And so I don't know if I think a ton about the differences of it. It's more of, kind of writing in my direction and then taking it and seeing what we can do.
So where does inspiration strike most when you're like writing new music? Are you like in the shower and realize, hey, I've been humming this little song, or out on tour with a guitar strumming around? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it just kind of comes from just daily life. And sometimes, hearing somebody say something, it can really even come from a conversation, the way somebody says something, or, you can pull titles and ideas from anything, and probably my favorite way to write a song is just going in to the room with a good idea, something that we can really, write around. So
And you've been out touring. Is there a recent moment or some like fan connection or anything that when you're on stage that kind of stuck with you lately?
It's every night. It's kind of the same with Life with You. After we'll play Life with You as our last song, one of our last songs, and then we'll do the meet and greets at the end of the night. And it's always the coolest part to me is just getting to talk to the fans and hear, their personal stories about, how the songs, have affected them and stuff. So I think every night that's probably my favorite part.
Kelsey Hart's new single, Something That You'd Miss, is out. Find it on all streaming platforms and get some of his tour info over at kelseyhart.com. Hey, Kelsey, thanks for joining me this morning.
Hey, thanks for having me, buddy. Appreciate you.
Most people hear the word settlement and assume it only matters if someone is really sick. But this one is getting attention because it may also apply to people who were exposed years ago and feel pretty much okay right now. So joining us today is Eric D. Holland, counsel for future claimants at Holland Law Firm. Eric, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing okay. This settlement, it covers claims for up to about 21 years. How is it designed to protect people who may not get sick until maybe much later?
It's a critical component of the settlement, Dan. This is something where current people with diagnoses of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma are able to seek compensation, and those diagnosed in the future can as well. They're able to, at the time of their diagnosis in the future, within a set amount of time, come into the program, make an application for an award, and be compensated with certainty, even in the future, for up to 21 years.
So who qualifies, and what might someone who used Weedkiller at home might be included in this?
The qualifications, really, the two big qualifications are exposure. So you have to have been exposed and know you were exposed to a Roundup product, to a product containing glyphosate, and diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. From there, it really kind of depends on a number of factors where you fall on the compensation grid, it's called, to determine how much money you get.
So what are some of the factors that would make somebody eligible for maybe even a higher payment under this settlement?
The payments that are at the higher end are going to be people who are exposed quite a lot, most often through occupational, agricultural, landscaping kind of activities. Those people who have had significant medical treatment, and you can never minimize a cancer diagnosis, but there are some that come with some very serious life-threatening treatments like stem cell transplants and the like. And then younger people who are diagnosed at younger ages. Those are all people who are going to qualify for the higher awards of up to $165,000 or even more.
So how does somebody find out about their eligibility and legal rights if they are affected?
The settlement court issued a preliminary approval order. That's just legal talk for the court thinks that it's going to be able to finally approve the settlement. As part of that preliminary approval order, the court ordered a public website to be put up. The public website contains all the settlement documents. It contains a number of frequently asked questions and a way to interact with and get all the information you need. So that's the very best place to go.
All right, one more time. Where can people go for that?
The website is weedkillerclass.com. Excuse me. That's the court-ordered website. There's also a toll-free number for those who'd like to call and ask questions. That's 888-403-8201. Again, those are court-ordered websites and numbers, not lawyers. You won't be calling in, talking to a law firm. You'll be talking to an independent claims administrator.
Eric Holland, I really want to thank you for coming here today.
You bet. Thank you very much.
Some stories don't fade with time, especially when they involve trust, friendship, and betrayal. The new 3-part Hulu docuseries, Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, revisits the 2012 disappearance of a West Virginia teenager and the shocking truth that followed. It's a story told through social media, personal interviews, and voices closest to the case. So joining us this morning are director Claire Titley and former FBI agent and polygraph examiner Dr. Rob Ambrosini. Thank you two for being here. How are you?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
All right, Claire, what stood out to you about this case and what made you feel like it needed to be revisited now, more than a decade later?
I think one of the things that made me that was so kind of shocking about this case when I first kind of looked at it was the fact that it's 2012 and it's quite a unique era in a way for social media, because it was that era where social media was new. It was kind of a new frontier. It was the kind of Wild West though as well. And teenagers were experimenting with it. They were just putting their entire lives online. They didn't have the hindsight that we have now about kind of, what could possibly go wrong. But also it was an era where adults weren't really looking at social media. So nobody was kind of checking up on them. There were no sort of checks and balances. And that makes that generation of teenagers at that kind of time particularly unique. They're almost like the guinea pigs of social media.
And the series used Skylar's own words and social media posts that you said. How did that storytelling change the ways this story unfolds for viewers?
I think it was really important to us to try and give Skylar a voice. We didn't want her to just be a kind of a plot point in a true crime, where she's just the kind of victim and has no voice. We really wanted her to have agency in telling her own story, which is harder than it sounds, obviously when she's gone. But she left behind this incredible sort of archive of tweets, of digital messages, but also her own writing as well. So we worked very closely with her parents to make sure that we could just bring her voice kind of front and center, and that she could at least be a part of telling this story from the inside out. So we interview her friends as well, quite comprehensively, so that we can hear this story from the 16-year-old perspective, including Skylar herself.
And Dr. Ambrosini, you spent 24 years with the FBI. You've conducted thousands of polygraph exams. When you look at this case, what role did interviewing and behavioral analysis play in getting the truth?
Well, interviewing really played a significant role. And long before I became involved in the case, the two young girls, they were interviewed by case agents, state troopers, local police investigators. And during that process, you kind of started seeing this evolution of what really should be fact, right? When things are fact, it doesn't change, right? The truth is the truth, and it's always going to be the truth. But there were indications during these interviews that really did result in kind of like this evolution of their story. And of course, when that happens, the logical investigation is, why is this person changing that story, right? So this case is kind of about the behavior that's exhibited, the ideation, what's going on, what are they thinking, and how are they communicating? And that really speaks to the social media that you have here, which again was kind of in its infancy stage, if you will, compared to what it is now. So really, a lot of it did come down to the really significant interviews that the investigators were doing.
And one of the most unsettling aspects is how normal these friendships appeared on the surface. How does this case reveal about the hidden conflict, especially among teenagers?
I think what we really wanted to do with this series was kind of remind people what it's like to be 16. It's very easy to forget when you become an adult, and put that behind you. But about the fact that when you are that age, your brain behaves in such a way that your friends become much more important than your parents, than your family. Everything is very heightened. Your reasoning is off, if you like. Your idea of consequences, is very different to that of an adult's. And when you have that combined with social media that is completely unregulated, but unwatched by anybody else, that's where the kind of combination was kind of so dangerous, really, I think, particularly for that generation who didn't have the hindsight that we have now.
And Claire, after someone watches all 3 episodes, what do you hope stays with them?
I hope people do reflect on their own use of sort of social media on their children, on their family as well, and remember what it's like to be that age. But also, I hope that they come away from this feeling like they know Skylar, and she would have turned 30 just a few weeks ago. So that's a life that she didn't have. And she should have gone to college. She wanted to be a lawyer. There's all this life that didn't happen. And I'd love for people to come away knowing and remembering Skylar as she was.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Friends Like These, The Murder of Skylar Neese, with all 3 episodes available to stream now on Hulu. I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fans of When Calls the Heart are finally getting the backstory, and it's a pretty big one. Hope Valley 1874 is now streaming, taking us to the very beginning of the town and the people who pretty much built it. We're joined by Bethany Joy Lenz and Jill Hennessy, who play two of the women at the center of it all. And it's great to have you two here. How are you?
Hi, so great to be here.
All right.
Thank you for having us.
No worries. I've heard a lot about this. A lot of my fans, or a lot of the people watching, are fans of the show. And for people that do already or are already fans of this world, what's different about seeing Hope Valley kind of at the way beginning?
Oh man, I think it's going to be so incredible. I think for people to be able to see this town being built from the ground up. It's something. It's kind of like when you meet a new friend, when or fall in love. The more that you find out about the person that you're in love with, you go to meet their family, you go and meet their siblings, you go sit there with their mom and go through the family photo book. Like, that's what we're giving you guys a chance to do as fans of When Calls the Heart. And we really hope to do it justice.
And Bethany, your character, Rebecca, is coming into the frontier life from pretty much Chicago life. What kind of adjustment is she dealing with early on?
Well, there are several adjustments. The first being that she's been recently widowed. So trying to figure out emotionally where to place her grief while also being in these sort of emergency situation of needing to get her daughter to a safe place. And we don't know exactly why yet. Well, we know, but you're going to find out. And she's got to get across the frontier and get her daughter into a safe place in Canada. So she doesn't have a lot of time for emotional processing. And that's kind of where Hattie Quinn comes in. Jill's character, it opens up once Rebecca lands. Hattie becomes a source of stability and trust for Rebecca to actually start to learn how to soften and open up.
And yeah, she was saying, Jill, Hattie's already part of this community. How would you describe her role in shaping what Hope Valley becomes?
Wow. Well, she's Hattie Quinn runs the Trading Post, and she originally came out with her husband and very small girl at the beginning. And now her daughter is around 20 years old, but she recently lost her husband. So now she's running this Trading Post by herself with her daughter. And she is sort of the glue that holds the community together. And I think she runs it with a great sense of humor and incredible, direct, no nonsense kind of spirit, and has great connections with the whole community. But then Rebecca starts walking into town with her daughter, riding in a covered wagon. And I think Hattie identifies a woman who's very courageous and intelligent and is kind of haunted by something, and Hattie's not sure what is haunting Rebecca, but I think she also identifies a kindred spirit that she might become friends with. And I think Rebecca sort of opens Hattie up to how lonely she really feels, and a lot of feelings she's been trying to suppress just so she can get through day to day, because that's what this whole show is about. It's just these characters trying to survive every single day.
Hey, horses be walking, so it's not that big. You're not too far off.
Exactly.
All right, when people start watching now, what do you think is going to be like getting them hooked and keep them coming back each and every week?
The characters. I mean, the setting is amazing, but it's also something that they've seen before, maybe not as broken down, but we are using the When Calls the Heart sets. There are a few locations that will be new for When Calls fans. And for people who haven't watched When Calls the Heart, you don't need to. You can still jump right in and you won't miss a beat. But I would say the relationships of who the characters are there's something for everyone.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Hope Valley 1874 is streaming now on Hallmark Plus with new episodes dropping every Thursday. You can jump in anytime to catch up. Thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ever feel like the SAT is confusing or maybe not as important as it used to be? A lot of families are trying to figure out if it's still worth taking and how to prepare without spending a ton of money. Priscilla Rodriguez is a senior vice president with the College Board, and she's here to break it all down and share free tools that can help students feel ready. Welcome, Priscilla.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So why should students take the SAT today?
It's a great question. A lot has changed about the SAT and about college admissions in general in just the last few years. But taking the SAT remains an important part of students' kind of college and career planning journey. And there's really two main reasons why. The first is for college applications. So coming out of the pandemic, there are colleges that require test scores. There are colleges that make them optional. To have all of your options open as a student, you want to have an SAT score. On top of that, an SAT score is a measure that colleges trust and understand, that shows them what you've learned in reading, writing, and math, regardless of where you live in the country or what high school you go to. And having that standardized measure is increasingly important to colleges in a world where there's increasing high school grade inflation and AI is being more widely used. And then the second reason is about scholarships. So we know so many families are worried about how they're going to pay for college. An SAT score can unlock scholarship dollars for students, which for a lot of families, makes all the difference in being able to go or not.
And what are some of the best free ways students can start preparing right now?
So as a mission-driven nonprofit at College Board, we're committed to making sure that every student has access to world-class practice for free. So the first and most important thing that students can do is download Blue Book. That's the app where they're going to take the SAT on test day, but you can download it at any point, always free. And inside of Blue Book are 8 full-length official SAT practice tests. They look, act, and are scored just like the real thing. And so when you take one, you get back a practice score, you get back an analysis of your answers, and you get back insights about which of those reading, writing, and math skills you have the most room to improve on. And then students can take those insights over to our partners at Khan Academy. They host official SAT practice. And there they have videos, tutorials, practice questions, and quizzes exactly lined up against the SAT skills, so students can use their valuable time targeting what they want to work on. The last free practice resource I want to mention today is our newest one. We just announced a partnership with another nonprofit called Schoolhouse.World. They host what they call SAT boot camps. These are multi-week live student peer sessions. They do them over video, where a student who's already taken the SAT and done well on it uses a kind of curriculum and official SAT practice materials to lead a group of students through their preparation to build their confidence for test day.
And as you kind of just mentioned, how exactly do those SAT scores actually help with college and career planning?
We know that the SAT is, of course, a test, but we are really encouraging students and families to also think of it as a tool that you can use to show your strengths and what you've learned to colleges, a tool to secure scholarships, and a tool to help you think about your career path and journey. So when you take the skills that the SAT measures in reading, writing, and math, line that up with your interests, and use the career exploration tools we offer over on bigfuture.org, students have a way to really think about where they might want to be headed and the education that they need to get there.
And the test is now digital. How does that Blue Book app keep things fair and secure?
That's right. We moved the SAT from paper to digital just over 2 years ago. Keeping scores secure is obviously incredibly important. And I mentioned that Blue Book student testing app. That's kind of our first layer of test security. On test day, Blue Book completely locks down a student's computer. They cannot get out of or access anything else. It's 2 hours to show what you've learned in reading, writing, and math. The next layer is that as a digital test, we can now assemble unique combinations of questions for each student. So students are no longer taking all the same SAT questions on the same day. And then the last layer is that while the SAT is now digital, it is not a take-it-home test. So students are still gathering in classes with other students and trained adult proctors who are there to make sure that everything is smooth and that everything is secure.
And where can families go to get more information and get started?
The best place to go is SAT.org. There you'll see upcoming test days. You can register for an SAT, and all those free practice resources I mentioned are linked there as well.
Priscilla, my friend, thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks, I really appreciate it.
More people are getting creative with their yards right now, turning them into spaces that actually do something. Think gardening, fresh eggs, and a little more self-sufficiency at home. Marti Skold-Jordan and Tyler Potts from Tractor Supply are here with some easy ways to jump in this spring. So good to have you both.
Oh, it's good to talk to you. Happy spring.
And happy spring to you as well. So Tyler, we're hearing about this yard pride trend. What are people really getting into right now?
Yeah, now is the perfect time to knock off your backyard to-do list with things such as picking up fallen branches or raking up any leaves that may be left over from the wintertime to really help your yard thrive this spring. It's also a great time to check on your equipment, so replacing or sharpening those lawnmower blades or draining any fuel that may be left from last year so that you can get a fresh start on your spring season. If you're in the market for a new mower, Tractor Supply is a great place to start, as we have a large assortment of mowers from any size that you may need depending on the size of your yard. So we have things such as a push mower or self-propelled mower for someone who has a smaller yard, or if you have a larger yard, maybe a riding mower or the zero turn, similar to the one sitting here next to me now. The great thing too is in the month of April, on the 25th and the 26th, we will have our Tractor Supply demo days, which is a time for you to come to the store and test out one of these mowers yourself and figure out which one is best for your needs.
And Marti, raising chickens is definitely having a moment. Why are so many people trying it, and what are the benefits?
Oh, the benefits are those farm fresh eggs in the morning. You know where those chickens were raised, what went into them. You're taking care of them yourself, and so it's a great hobby for yourself or for your family, for kids to learn responsibility. We sell a variety of chickens, even those rare and premium breeds, some of those silkies that have the feathers on their feet. Also, a variety of eggs come out of these different chickens, and so you can get green eggs, blue, white, brown. In addition to that, we sell baby ducks and baby turkeys.
And Tyler, gardening is huge right now. What are some easy tips for beginners and maybe a step up for people who've done it before?
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do if you're a beginner or a veteran is determine which plant zone you're in so you can pick which plants are best for your area. You can visit the Tractor Supply website to find more details about that, or stop by the store, pick up one of these Farmer's Almanac. They have a ton of information in them regarding which plant zone you're in and which plants you should pick. Next is determining how much sunlight the area gets. Most plants love sun. If you're a beginner gardener, then you want to probably pick something like a tomato plant, but that requires 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. So make sure you're picking the right area in your yard for your garden. And then last is determining how much space you have. So we're seeing an uptick in container gardening and raised beds for those that are wanting to get into it, but they don't have the space for a traditional garden. So if that's you, make sure you stop by and shop our assortment there. But we also still have a broad assortment for someone who's a veteran gardener who has an in-ground garden that's looking for more variety this spring. And through the month of May, we have great offers on Bonnie vegetables and herbs, the Scott's Miracle Grow with our yard and garden event.
So, Marti, what does life out here look like for people today?
It looks different for different people. So if you live in a condo, a townhouse, an apartment, it might be a container garden on your back patio. If you have a rural community or a suburb, you can maybe have the backyard chickens, or if you have a huge farm and ranch, it's where you are, it's what you're doing with your land, your garden, your home, and your animals. And we try to help with all of that. And so we have Pet RX, which is the pharmacy for pets. We have pet wash stations. So I know my dog Blue gets muddy feet, her little paws all the time. And so I take her to the pet wash station. We love having animals come into Tractor Supply as long as they're on a leash.
And where can our viewers go to get more information or get started?
Come on into our stores. We've got demo days going on, chick days. Of course, it's 4-H paper clover this time of year, so you can give at the register there as well. So tractorsupply.com/spring, or we hope to see you in store.
Marti, Tyler, I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
That's going to do it for Rise and Unwind. Thanks so much for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the show, visit our website at riseunwindtv.com. And for behind-the-scene moments and celebrity interviews, be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Rise Unwind. You can also find our full episodes on YouTube under the same name, Rise Unwind. Until next week, I'm Kayla, and thanks for spending a little bit of time with us here on Rise and Unwind.